Imagine yourself standing in the ancient world, a realm where the Nile and the Euphrates were not merely rivers but the lifeblood of mighty civilizations. On the horizon, the Great Pyramids rise from the golden sands, their sunlit stones gleaming like mirrors of the gods, as if the divine itself had commanded their creation. In distant Babylon, you can almost hear the murmur of cascading water flowing through the hanging gardens that seem to float between heaven and earth. In Olympia, the statue of Zeus stands in magnificent silence, so grand that his calm smile appears to breathe life into time itself. This world was filled with mystery, ambition, and the eternal human desire to leave a mark on history. The seven wonders of the world were more than just architectural masterpieces. They were living symbols of genius, faith, and the relentless pursuit of immortality. They seemed to speak across ages, look upon what we have built, and know that we will never be forgotten. These wonders, remembered through millennia, have become the emblem of human will, the proof that even in the face of the impossible, humanity dares to dream, to build, and to reach for eternity. The birth of the seven wonders. The idea of the seven wonders of the world was born in an age when curiosity itself was a sacred act. It was a time when philosophers, travelers, and scholars looked upon the vastness of the known world and sought to bring order to its marvels. Herodotus, remembered as the father of history, wandered across lands and seas, recording the extraordinary creations of humankind, temples that touched the sky, statues that breathed divinity, and cities so grand they seemed to have been carved by gods. Later, this fascination with greatness was refined and preserved by Colossus of Cyrene, the brilliant librarian of the Great Library of Alexandria. Within those marble halls, where the scent of papyrus mingled with the sound of turning scrolls, he compiled what would become one of the most enduring lists in human memory, the seven wonders of the ancient world. But why seven? In the ancient mind, numbers carried meaning beyond mathematics. Seven symbolized perfection, the harmony between heaven and earth, the unity of creation, the rhythm of life itself. There were seven celestial bodies known to the ancients, seven strings on Apollo's lyre, seven gates to Thebes. To choose seven wonders was to define completeness, a circle of human achievement that mirrored the order of the cosmos. These wonders arose during an age when ambition rivaled the stars. Across deserts, mountains, and seas, civilizations competed not only for power but for legacy. The Egyptian pharaohs commanded armies of craftsmen to raise the pyramids that would guide their souls to eternity. Babylonian kings defied the arid earth by building lush, suspended gardens that dripped with water and fragrance. Greek rulers, inspired by divine myths and human pride, sculpted temples and statues that glorified both man and God. These creations were not mere monuments of stone and marble. They were offerings, prayers in the language of architecture, declarations that mortals, too, could shape the eternal. Imagine the world then, caravans of camels crossing shimmering dunes to deliver alabaster and gold, ships slicing through turbulent seas carrying marble from distant islands, priests chanting hymns as builders raised walls that seemed to scrape the heavens. Each wonder was born from a union of faith and intellect, artistry and labor. They were humanity's dialogue with the divine, our attempt to answer the silence of the universe with beauty and endurance. And though most of these wonders have long since fallen to dust and ruin, their spirit endures. They became a bridge between past and present, and between the age of myth and the age of memory. The seven wonders remind us that human beings, though fragile and fleeting, possess a will that defies time itself. They are proof that dreams, once shaped by hands and hearts, can echo across millennia. So now, let us travel back to that distant world. Let us walk among those ancient stones and discover how each of these miracles came to life, who dared to build them, why they were created, and how they forever changed our understanding of what it means to be human. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, the eternal monument of the desert. Let us now journey to Egypt, the land where the story of the 7 wonders of the world began. Amid the sands and scorching sun of the Giza Plateau stands a monument so immense and enduring that it continues to inspire even after more than 4,000 years, the Great Pyramid of Khufu. It is only one of the original 7 wonders still standing, a timeless testament to the genius, ambition, and spiritual depth of the ancient Egyptian civilization. Built around 2560 BC during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, known to the Greeks as Cheops. The pyramid originally rose to nearly 147 meters, taller than any structure on Earth for over 3 millennia. Though slightly reduced in height today due to the loss of its outer casing stones, it remains a symbol of human mastery and divine aspiration. Constructed from approximately 2.3 million limestone and granite blocks weighing a total of about 6 million tons, the pyramid continues to baffle scientists and historians alike. How did the Egyptians, without modern technology, move and lift such massive stones with such extraordinary precision? Archaeological discoveries suggest that they used sledges gliding over wet sand to reduce friction, and even engineered artificial canals to bring blocks closer to the construction site. Originally, the pyramid was covered in polished white Turo limestone that gleamed under the desert sun like a beacon visible for miles, a light so bright it was said to rival the rays of Ra himself. Though most of that outer layer has been stripped away by time, the image of a shining mountain of stone endures in imagination. The methods of construction remain one of history's greatest enigmas. Some scholars believe the Egyptians employed long, straight ramps that extended as the structure rose. Others argue for spiraling ramps or complex systems of counterweights and levers. Regardless of the method, the feat was nothing short of miraculous. Yet the pyramid was more than an engineering marvel. It was a sacred vessel designed to bridge heaven and earth. For Khufu, the pyramid was his stairway to eternity, the axis through which his spirit would ascend to the realm of the gods. Deep within its heart lies the king's chamber, hewn from red granite and protected by intricate passageways and massive blocking stones meant to deter tomb robbers. Modern excavations reveal that the laborers who built the pyramid were not slaves, as once thought, but skilled artisans, engineers, and workers who lived in well-organized communities, nourished and respected for their sacred role in serving the pharaoh and the gods. What is perhaps most astonishing is the precision of its construction. The pyramid's sides are aligned almost perfectly to the cardinal directions, and its base is leveled with remarkable accuracy, a difference of less than a few centimeters across its entire span. To achieve this, the Egyptians used water channels to ensure perfect horizontal alignment, demonstrating an understanding of geometry and physics centuries ahead of its time. Ramps, likely spiral or zigzagging, allowed workers to pull stones upward in a steady rhythm, while wet sand beneath the sleds eased their path. Inside, the sophistication continues. The builders created relieving chambers above the burial chamber, ingenious architectural features that redistributed the immense weight of stone and prevented collapse. This structural foresight reveals a deep understanding of materials, pressure, and balance principles still studied in modern engineering. And then, there are the mysteries. The Great Pyramid has inspired centuries of speculation and legend. Some believe it holds mystical powers, functioning as an energy generator or cosmic resonator due to its perfect proportions and alignment with celestial bodies. Mathematicians note that its geometry contains the golden ratio, the same harmonious proportion found in nature, art, and music. To others, such perfection suggests knowledge far beyond its era, perhaps even lost to time, and like other Egyptian tombs, the interior of the Great Pyramid is strikingly austere. No hieroglyphs, no murals, no scenes of gods or the afterlife. This absence continues to perplex scholars. Was it intentional, the symbol of purity, a chamber of silence meant for the pharaoh's transcendence, or was the interior decoration never completed? More fantastic theories propose that the pyramid may even have been influenced by beings from beyond Earth. citing the unmatched precision of its joints and the mysterious accuracy of its star alignments. Though such claims remain unproven, they add to the aura of enigma surrounding this colossal monument. In the 19th century, British engineer Howard Weiss discovered hidden relieving chambers above the King's Chamber, spaces designed to distribute weight and prevent structural failure. But modern technology, including drone scanning, has revealed yet more secrets of vast hidden voids within the pyramid, their purpose still unknown. Are they structural, ceremonial, or something more? The legends of Pharaoh Khufu's lost treasure also persist. Ancient texts claim he was entombed with unimaginable wealth of gold, jewels, sacred scrolls, yet no treasure has ever been found. Was it stolen in antiquity, or does it still lie sealed in a secret chamber, waiting to be rediscovered? Astronomical connections deepen the mystery further. The three Great Pyramids of Giza are said to mirror the stars of Orion's belt, a constellation associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth. Ventilation shafts inside the Great Pyramid align precisely with stars such as Sirius and Alnitic, suggesting that the structure itself was conceived as a cosmic map, a bridge between Earth and sky. Then, and God. And what of Khufu himself? Was he a tyrant who forced thousands into labor, or a visionary leader who inspired his people with the promise of eternal glory? The truth may lie somewhere in between, but his monument endures, immortalizing his name far beyond any reign. Through centuries of discovery, debate, and wonder, the Great Pyramid of Khufu remains not only the greatest architectural triumph of the ancient world but also one of its most profound mysteries. It stands as both question and answer, a monument to what humanity can achieve, and a reminder that even after 4,000 years, some secrets are meant to be eternal. The Hanging Gardens of Semiramis, the lost oasis of Babylon. We now journey from the golden sands of Egypt to a place of eternal greenery, a fabled paradise said to have bloomed amid the arid landscape of ancient Mesopotamia. The Hanging Gardens of Semiramis, the second of the seven wonders of the world, have long captured the imagination as a living miracle, the vision of human ingenuity uniting architecture and nature in breathtaking harmony. Ancient writers describe the gardens as an extraordinary structure of ascending terraces, overflowing with trees, flowers, and vines that cascaded downward like emerald waterfalls. They painted a picture of a mountain of greenery rising above the dust and stone of Babylon, a sanctuary where birds sang, water flowed, and fragrant blossoms swayed in the desert breeze. According to legend, the gardens were built by King Nebuchadnezzar II around the 6th century BC for his beloved queen, Amadis of Media. Nostalgic for her lush homeland's green hills, Amadis found the Babylonian plains unbearably dry and colorless. To ease her sorrow, the king commanded the creation of a garden so magnificent that it would remind her of home, an act of love that defied the harshness of the desert itself. The gardens thus became not only a symbol of royal power but also of devotion, a love letter carved in stone and nourished by water. Yet, like many legends, the story invites doubt. No Babylonian inscriptions from the time of Nebuchadnezzar mention such gardens, despite the detailed records describing the construction of his temples, palaces, and city walls. The first references appear centuries later in the works of Greek historians such as Strabo and Diodorus Siculus. Their descriptions may have been based on travelers' tales, romantic embellishments, or perhaps the confusion of Babylon with another great city. The greatest mystery surrounding the gardens lies in their possibility. How could such a lush, elevated paradise exist in a desert climate? Ancient accounts speak of a sophisticated irrigation system, a mechanical wonder capable of raising water from the Euphrates River to the highest terraces. Some historians believe it may have worked like the later Archimedes screw, a device that spiraled water upward through rotating cylinders to keep thousands of plants alive under the Mesopotamian sun. This system would have required constant operation and immense technical skill, a feat nearly unimaginable for the time. Yet, No archaeological evidence of the gardens has ever been found in Babylon. This absence has led modern scholars to a fascinating alternative theory that the legendary gardens were not in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire, hundreds of kilometers to the north. King Sennacherib of Assyria, who ruled a century before Nebuchadnezzar, was renowned for his engineering brilliance. In Nineveh, archaeologists have discovered traces of complex aqueducts, canals, and water-lifting devices that once irrigated the royal palace gardens. Inscriptions even describe Sennacherib's wonder for all peoples, a phrase that could easily refer to the fabled hanging gardens. These findings make the Assyrian origin theory increasingly plausible, suggesting that the legend of Babylon's Green Mountain may, in fact, have been born from memories of Sennacherib's masterpiece. Whether the hanging gardens stood in Babylon, in Nineveh, or only in the imagination of ancient poets, their legacy endures. They symbolize humanity's longing to bring beauty into barren places, our eternal desire to cultivate paradise even where the earth resists it. The gardens of Semiramis remain an echo of that dream, a vision of life triumphing over desolation, where stone and leaf, love and ingenuity merge to create one of history's most enduring mysteries. Semiramis, the queen who became a legend equally mysterious is the origin of the name itself, the Hanging Gardens of Semiramis. Who was this woman whose name has echoed through millennia, attached to one of the greatest wonders of the ancient world? The truth is as elusive as the gardens themselves. Semiramis is a figure balanced delicately between history and myth, a woman whose story blends reality, legend, and the timeless human fascination with beauty and power. According to tradition, Semiramis, or Semiramis, as she was known in Assyria, was indeed a historical figure. She was the wife of King Shamshi-Adad, who ruled the mighty Assyrian Empire in the 9th century BC. After his death, she became regent for her young son Adad-nirari III, temporarily assuming control of one of the most powerful empires of her time. This alone made her extraordinary in an era when women were seldom seen as rulers. Semiramis commanded armies, managed vast territories, and presided over affairs of state, but her legend far outgrew the facts. Greek and Roman historians such as Diodorus Siculus and Herodotus transformed her into a near-mythic figure, a queen of dazzling beauty, sharp intellect, and unshakable will. In their accounts, Semiramis was not merely a ruler but a creator, credited with the founding of Babylon itself, the building of its majestic walls, temples, and palaces. Many believe that it was she, not Nebuchadnezzar, who inspired or even commissioned the construction of the Hanging Gardens, dedicating them to the gods and to her own glory. In ancient literature, she became the embodiment of feminine genius and ambition, a warrior queen who led campaigns to expand her empire's borders. One legend even tells of her ill-fated invasion of India, where she faced fierce resistance and was forced to retreat, yet returned home undefeated in spirit. Other tales speak of her cunning diplomacy and wisdom, her ability to rule among powerful men without losing her independence or authority. Her origins, too, are shrouded in myth. According to one story, Semiramis was born of the goddess Dercato, who abandoned her newborn daughter in the wilderness. The infant was found and raised by a shepherd until her extraordinary beauty caught the attention of the king, who made her his queen. This divine birth myth, added later by storytellers, sought to explain her extraordinary charisma and destiny, for surely, they reasoned, no mortal woman could achieve such greatness without divine blood. Historical evidence paints a more measured picture. In reality, Semiramis' regency lasted only a few years, but during that time she helped stabilize the empire and strengthen her son's rule. Yet her legacy transcended politics. Over centuries, her name became a symbol, the archetype of the powerful, intelligent, and captivating woman who shapes history and myth alike. Semiramis became the ancient world's answer to Cleopatra, a timeless emblem of beauty and strength intertwined. She embodied the paradox of womanhood in antiquity, revered, feared, and immortalized through story. Though her true deeds may have faded into the sands of time, the legend of Semiramis endures, the tale of how myth can outlive memory, and how the idea of greatness can shine even brighter than history itself. The appearance of the Hanging Gardens, a vision of green amid the desert. If the Hanging Gardens of Semiramis truly existed, what might they have looked like? Ancient descriptions passed down through the writings of Greek historians have long inspired scholars, architects, and artists to reconstruct this lost wonder of the world. While no definitive evidence remains, historical texts and modern engineering insights allow us to imagine the breathtaking splendor of this mythical oasis. Picture a massive, multi-tiered structure rising high above the dusty plains of Babylon. Each terrace, built of stone or sun-baked brick, was supported by sturdy columns and vaulted arches, forming a monumental staircase of greenery that seemed to float in the air. From the highest levels, cascades of vines, flowers, and trees draped downward, creating the illusion of hanging gardens, living waterfalls of emerald and blossom. The terraces were connected by stairways and sloping paths that allowed visitors to wander freely through a labyrinth of fragrance and shade. At the heart of this paradise was an ingenious system of irrigation, triumph of ancient engineering. Classical sources describe a mechanical device that raised water from the Euphrates River to the uppermost terraces. Some believe it was similar to a spiral water lifting mechanism later known as the Archimedes screw, while others suggest a series of hidden pulleys, buckets, or chain pumps that worked in unison. Once lifted to the top, the water flowed gently downward through channels, pools, and miniature waterfalls, nourishing each level in turn and filling the gardens with the soothing murmur of running streams. The contrast between this lush sanctuary and the surrounding desert must have been astonishing. The air would have been thick with the scent of blossoms and cool moisture, a miracle of life in a landscape of dust and heat. The vegetation, imported from distant lands, likely reflected the homeland of Queen Artemis, for whom the gardens were said to have been built. Among the greenery may have grown pomegranates, cypresses, date palms, jasmine, myrtle, and roses, each chosen not only for beauty but for its fragrance and symbolism. To preserve the structure's stability, Babylonian builders probably used bitumen and fired bricks, materials common in Mesopotamian architecture. Layers of stone and reed soaked in tar or resin may have served as waterproofing, preventing precious irrigation water from seeping away and damaging the terraces. The gardens themselves would have been shielded by surrounding palace walls, offering protection from the scorching sun and desert winds, creating a private paradise for the royal family. As dusk fell, the hanging gardens must have glowed in hues of gold and rose, reflecting the last light of the setting sun across their fountains and pools. Birds nested among the trees, servants tended to exotic blooms, and nobles reclined on marble benches, listening to the rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of the Euphrates. Though their physical remains have vanished, artistic reconstructions and archaeological hypotheses continue to bring this vision to life, a shimmering mirage of architecture, nature, and imagination. If the Hanging Gardens of Semiramis truly existed, they were not merely a marvel of ancient engineering but the embodiment of humanity's deepest longing to create harmony between the hand of man and the heart of nature, turning the desert into a dream of eternal green. Zeus of Olympia, the divine majesty of Greece. After the splendor and mystery of the Hanging Gardens, our journey leads us to Greece, a land of philosophy, art, and deep reverence for the gods. At the very heart of this civilization, in the sacred sanctuary of Olympia, stood one of the most magnificent creations of the ancient world, the statue of Zeus, a monument that embodied the power, serenity, and divine authority of the king of the gods himself. Zeus, the ruler of Olympus and the god of thunder, lightning, and justice, was revered as the protector of order both among mortals and immortals. The sanctuary of Olympia, nestled among green valleys and sacred groves, became not just a religious center but a powerful symbol of unity for all Greek city-states. Here, citizens from rival regions laid down their arms to gather in peace for the Olympic Games, held every 4 years in Zeus's honor. These games were more than athletic contests. They were sacred rituals celebrating harmony, discipline, and the human pursuit of excellence, ideals that mirrored the divine attributes of Zeus himself. In this holy place, the statue of Zeus rose as the ultimate expression of devotion, created in the 5th century BC by the legendary sculptor Phidias. It was considered the pinnacle of classical artistry, a masterpiece that combined artistic genius with spiritual reverence. The god was depicted seated on an elaborate throne of ivory, gold, and ebony, his gaze calm yet commanding, his presence both benevolent and awe-inspiring. In his right hand, he held the figure of Nike, the goddess of victory, symbolizing divine triumph. In his left, a scepter crowned with an eagle, the eternal emblem of his power. The statue stood over 12 meters high, so immense that, according to ancient accounts, if Zeus were to stand up, he would break through the roof of his temple. The throne itself was adorned with intricate carvings, mythological scenes, precious stones, and sacred symbols that told the stories of gods and heroes. The air around the statue shimmered with the fragrance of burning incense and oil lamps, while the dim light from the temple's doorway reflected off its golden surfaces, creating the illusion that Zeus was alive, breathing, radiant, eternal. The ancient philosopher Strabo once wrote that anyone who had seen the statue of Zeus in Olympia would forget all earthly troubles, for it seemed as if the god himself had descended to dwell among mortals. Even the Roman emperor Caligula, captivated by its majesty, once ordered that the statue be transported to Rome, an attempt that failed, according to legend, when a great storm rose, as if Zeus himself had intervened. The statue's creation marked the height of the Greek Golden Age, an era when faith, art, and intellect merged to celebrate not just the gods, but the divine within humanity. Sadly, this wonder did not survive the passage of time. It is believed to have been destroyed in the 5th century CE, likely in a fire, and only written descriptions and scattered fragments of its temple remain. Yet, through those words and images, the spirit of the Olympian Zeus still endures. His statue stood not merely as a tribute to a deity, but as a reflection of what humanity could achieve when guided by vision, skill, and reverence for the sacred. The Zeus of Olympia reminds us that true greatness lies not only in might, but in wisdom, in the harmony between divine power and human artistry, between heaven and earth. Zeus, the eternal symbol of divine power. The statue of Zeus, created by the legendary sculptor Phidias around 435 BC, was far more than a masterpiece of ancient art. It was the very embodiment of supreme authority and divine majesty. Standing nearly 12 meters tall, it dominated the sacred temple of Olympia, becoming one of the most awe-inspiring creations of the ancient world. To those who entered the sanctuary, it was as if the god himself had descended to earth. Zeus was depicted seated upon a grand throne, his immense figure radiating calm power and unshakable confidence. In his right hand, he held a delicate statue of Nike, the goddess of victory, the symbol of divine triumph. In his left hand, he grasped a scepter topped with an eagle, representing his dominion over heaven and earth. The throne itself was a masterpiece, crafted from gold, ivory, ebony, and precious stones, and adorned with intricate carvings that told stories of Greek mythology, the birth of the gods, the fall of the Titans, and the triumph of order over chaos. Phidias's mastery lay not only in technical perfection but in his ability to capture the divine essence of his subject. The combination of luminous materials, monumental scale, and exquisite detail created an almost supernatural impression. In the dim, incense-filled light of the temple, the statue seemed alive, its golden surfaces shimmering as though touched by lightning, its ivory skin glowing with warmth. To the ancient Greeks, this was not merely an image but a manifestation of divinity, a reminder that art could bridge the mortal and the eternal. The statue of Zeus symbolized more than the god's power. It reflected the Greek ideal of harmony between human achievement and divine perfection. It represented balance, strength without cruelty, wisdom without arrogance, and authority tempered by justice. Pilgrims came from every corner of Greece to behold it, not only to pray but to witness the highest expression of their culture's artistic and spiritual greatness. For centuries, this statue inspired poets, philosophers, and travelers alike. It stood as a beacon of faith and unity, reminding the Hellenic world of the values that bound them together: reverence for the gods, respect for beauty, and the eternal pursuit of excellence. To the ancient Greeks, Zeus was not simply a ruler of the skies, he was the living symbol of civilization itself. And his statue in Olympia was the perfect reflection of that truth, a harmony of power, grace, and divine wisdom carved forever in gold and ivory. The craft behind Divinity, the making of the Statue of Zeus. The creation of the Statue of Zeus at Olympia was one of the most ambitious and technically complex artistic achievements of the ancient world, a project that united engineering brilliance, artistic mastery, and deep spiritual vision. The renowned sculptor Phidias, already celebrated for his colossal statue of Athena Parthenos in Athens, undertook this monumental task around 435 BC. Determined to craft not merely an image of the god, but a living embodiment of divine majesty and reverence. At the heart of the statue stood a wooden framework, serving as the internal skeleton upon which other materials were attached. This inner core was constructed from cedar and cypress, woods prized for their strength and resistance to decay. To ensure stability, Phidias and his team used metal fastenings and moisture-proof coatings, preventing the structure from warping over time. Onto this solid frame, artisans applied layers of gold and ivory, transforming raw wood into a radiant vision of divinity. The technique used was known as chryselephantine sculpture, a combination of chrysos gold and elephas ivory, reserved for the most sacred representations of gods. The ivory formed Zeus's flesh, his serene face, his powerful hands, his bare feet resting upon a golden stool. Each piece of ivory was carefully softened in warm water, then shaped and polished until it gleamed with a lifelike glow. The golden plates, hammered to a paper-thin delicacy, adorned his robes, sandals, and ornaments, capturing the sacred brilliance of Olympus itself. The throne upon which Zeus sat was a masterpiece in its own right, an architectural marvel intricately decorated with carvings, inlays, and gems. Phidias and his assistants depicted scenes from Greek mythology across its surfaces: the battles of gods and titans, the labors of Heracles, the triumph of order over chaos. Lions supported the armrests, and on the back of the throne were carved eagles, sphinxes, and winged spirits, each detail symbolizing the divine authority of Zeus. In the god's right hand, Phidias placed the delicate figure of Nike, the winged goddess of victory, so finely wrought that she seemed almost to hover in midair. In his left, he held a magnificent scepter, inlaid with emeralds and topped with an eagle, the eternal emblem of his dominion over heaven and earth. These two symbols of victory and authority perfectly encapsulated the essence of Zeus's reign. Power guided by justice and wisdom. Light played a crucial role in animating the statue. The temple's architects designed openings so that sunlight streamed in at precise angles, striking the gold and ivory surfaces and making them shimmer as if the god were breathing. When the flicker of oil lamps mixed with the beams of natural light, Zeus seemed to glow with a celestial aura, his calm gaze radiating both serenity and power. Visitors described the experience as overwhelming, a vision that silenced the soul and filled the heart with awe. Phidias's workshop in Olympia was itself a marvel of ancient engineering. Archaeological discoveries, molds, tools, and remnants of ivory and bronze reveal how advanced his methods were. Craftsmen specialized in metalwork, carpentry, and inlaying worked side by side, each contributing to the divine illusion. Every curve, every fold of the robe, every line of the god's face was sculpted with mathematical precision and spiritual devotion. The statue of Zeus was more than an object of worship, it was a triumph of human ingenuity, a fusion of science and spirituality. Through the mastery of Phidias, mortals gave form to the infinite. The gold and ivory glistened not merely as decoration but as a metaphor for the divine light, an eternal reminder that, at its highest point, art becomes a bridge between humanity and the gods. The fate of the statue of Zeus, the fall of a divine masterpiece. The story of the statue of Zeus at Olympia ends in tragedy. A mystery that continues to intrigue historians and archaeologists to this day. This masterpiece of classical art, created to glorify the supreme god of ancient Greece, stood for nearly 1,000 years as a symbol of divine majesty and artistic perfection. It inspired poets, philosophers, and pilgrims from across the Mediterranean world until it vanished, leaving behind only echoes of its splendor and fragments of its legend. For centuries, the statue adorned the temple of Zeus in Olympia, drawing worshippers and travelers from every corner of Greece. It was not merely a religious idol, it was a cultural emblem, a monument to human genius and faith. However, as the centuries passed, the world that had once revered Zeus began to change. With the decline of the Olympic Games and the ban on pagan rituals in 394 CE by the decree of Emperor Theodosius I, the sanctuary of Olympia fell silent, without worshippers or caretakers. The temple slowly decayed, its marble columns collapsing, its once holy halls overtaken by time and neglect. The fate of the statue itself remains one of history's great enigmas. According to one version, sometime in the 5th century CE, the statue was transported to Constantinople, the new capital of the Eastern Roman Empire. There, it was said to have been placed in the imperial palace, continuing to awe and inspire those who gazed upon it. But in 475 CE, a catastrophic fire swept through Constantinople, destroying many of the city's treasures, and it is believed that the statue of Zeus perished in those flames. Other scholars propose a different theory, that the statue never left Olympia. The region was struck by multiple earthquakes during late antiquity, which devastated the temple and surrounding structures. If the statue remained in its original sanctuary, it might have been shattered under the falling debris. A third possibility suggests that the statue fell victim to religious destruction. As Christianity spread, zealous converts sought to erase the remnants of pagan worship. The gold and ivory that once clothed Zeus's form could have been stripped away, melted down, and repurposed, erasing the god's image but not his memory. Despite extensive archaeological research at the workshop of Phidias, the very place where the statue was created, and no fragments of the colossal sculpture have ever been found. Only tools, molds, and small remnants of materials remain, offering glimpses into the extraordinary craftsmanship behind it. The temple of Zeus itself now lies in ruins, broken columns scattered across the sacred ground where pilgrims once stood in awe. And yet, even in its absence, the statue of Zeus endures. It lives on through the writings of ancient historians like Pausanias and Strabo, through modern reconstructions, and through the imagination of all who dream of the beauty and ambition of the ancient world. Its disappearance stands as a timeless reminder that even the greatest creations of human hands can be lost, but the inspiration they awaken is eternal. The fall of the statue of Zeus is not just the story of a lost wonder. It is a meditation on impermanence, on how civilizations rise and fall, yet the pursuit of greatness, beauty, and divinity never fades. Through ruins and memory, Zeus still reigns not from his golden throne, but in the hearts of those who continue to seek the divine spark in art, history, and the boundless reach of the human spirit. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, the sanctuary of beauty and divine harmony after the Majesty of Zeus in Olympia. Our journey takes us to Asia Minor, to the ancient city of Ephesus, where one of the most magnificent creations of the ancient world once stood, the Temple of Artemis, goddess of nature, the hunt, and fertility. This temple was not merely a place of worship, it was a living symbol of artistic brilliance, architectural innovation, and the spiritual heart of a thriving civilization. Built in the 6th century BC, the Temple of Artemis was a marvel that far surpassed anything of its time, even the Parthenon of Athens, measuring 115 meters in length and 55 meters in width, with 127 marble columns each showering nearly 20 meters high. It formed a breathtaking forest of stone that seemed to merge earth and heaven. Its design represented perfect symmetry and balance, qualities deeply cherished in Greek aesthetics. While its sheer size evoked awe and reverence among all who beheld it, Artemis, revered across the Greek world as the protector of women, nature, and fertility, was the divine patroness of Ephesus. The city itself was considered her sacred ground. Pilgrims from across the Mediterranean came here to offer gifts and prayers, believing that Artemis guarded their lives, their harvests, and their children. The temple thus became not only a spiritual center but also a cultural and economic hub. Merchants, craftsmen, and travelers from distant lands gathered around its marble steps, turning Ephesus into one of the most cosmopolitan cities of the ancient world. The choice of location was itself symbolic. The temple stood on marshy ground, deliberately chosen to reflect Artemis's connection to the earth and to shield the structure from the tremors of frequent earthquakes. This delicate balance between art, faith, and engineering was a hallmark of Greek genius, a temple rising from the mud like a lotus, blending human ingenuity with divine symbolism. Architecturally, the temple was a masterpiece of the Ionic order, renowned for its elegance and grace. Its columns, carved from pure white marble, were adorned with intricate reliefs depicting mythological scenes, nymphs, hunters, and divine animals sacred to Artemis. The temple's pediments and friezes shimmered in the sunlight, while its roof, covered with terracotta tiles, was decorated with sculpted figures of griffins and lions. Inside, the air was heavy with incense, and the dim light filtering through the high windows illuminated the centerpiece of the sanctuary, the gold and ivory statue of Artemis herself. This statue, described by ancient travelers, portrayed the goddess not as a huntress but as a symbol of abundance and creation. Her robe was covered with images of bees, lions, and bulls, symbols of fertility and the cycles of life. Her expression was serene yet commanding, a divine protector who embodied both gentleness and power. The entire temple seemed to radiate her essence of the harmony between nature and civilization, life and art. But the temple's history was as dramatic as its beauty. In 356 BC, it was set ablaze by Herostratus, a man who sought eternal fame through destruction. The fire consumed the roof, the columns, and the sacred statue itself. Outraged, the citizens of Ephesus cursed his name, forbidding it to be spoken, and yet, ironically, that act of infamy preserved him in history. Refusing to let tragedy be the final word, the people of Ephesus rebuilt the temple even grander than before. With financial help from all over Greece, and even from Alexander the Great, who offered to fund its reconstruction. The new temple stood as a testament to resilience, a symbol of humanity's will to rebuild beauty from ashes. However, the centuries brought new trials. In the 3rd century CE, invading Goths sacked Ephesus and destroyed much of the temple. By then, the rise of Christianity had begun to eclipse the old gods, and the cult of Artemis slowly faded. The marble blocks of her once glorious sanctuary were later repurposed in other great structures, including the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, merging pagan grandeur with Christian legacy. Repeated earthquakes eventually reduced the remains to rubble, and by the 6th century CE, one of the world's greatest wonders lay buried beneath the earth. Today, on the outskirts of modern Selçuk, Turkey, only a few scattered columns and fragments of marble mark the place where the Temple of Artemis once stood. Yet, even in ruin, the site holds an unmistakable aura. It whispers of an age when architecture was prayer, when marble sang to the gods, and when humanity reached toward perfection with both hands and heart. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus remains a symbol of timeless aspiration, a reminder that beauty, faith, and creation can transcend even the fall of empires. It was not only a house for a goddess, but a celebration of the divine spark within humankind, carved forever into the story of civilization. The Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, monument of love, power, and immortality from the grandeur of the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus. Our journey now leads us to the shimmering coast of the Aegean Sea, to the ancient city of Halicarnassus, known today as Bodrum, Turkey. Here once stood one of the most poetic and enduring creations of the ancient world, the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. A monument built not only as a royal tomb but as an eternal testament to love, ambition, and human genius. The mausoleum was commissioned in the 4th century BC by Queen Artemisia II, in honor of her husband and brother, King Mausolus, the ruler of Korea. Though a vassal state under the Persian Empire, Mausolus ruled almost independently, displaying remarkable skill as both a strategist and statesman. He expanded his kingdom's power, enriched its culture, and transformed Halicarnassus into a flourishing center of art, commerce, and intellect. But his true legacy, the one that would immortalize his name, grows only after his death. When Mausolus died in 353 BC, Artemisia was overcome with grief. Their union was more than political, it was a profound bond of love, intellect, and shared vision. Stricken by loss, she vowed to build a tomb so magnificent that it would ensure Mausolus's memory would never fade. According to legend, her mourning was so intense that she mixed her husband's ashes into her wine, a mythic symbol of devotion so absolute it blurred the line between life and death. Whether literal or not, it expressed the depth of her sorrow and the intensity of her love, determined to create a monument worthy of both his greatness and her grief. Artemisia summoned the greatest artists and architects of the age, Satyros and Pythias of Priene as chief designers, and for legendary sculptors, Scopas, Bryaxis, Leochares, and Timotheus. Each was responsible for adorning a side of the mausoleum, ensuring that every angle reflected the highest beauty and precision of Greek art. Artemisia herself personally oversaw the project, guiding its progress with both royal authority and personal passion. The mausoleum rose to a height of about 45 meters 150 feet, an extraordinary architectural achievement for its time. It was built on a rectangular platform, surrounded by Ionic columns, and crowned with a stepped pyramid roof. At its summit stood a colossal chariot sculpture, a marble depiction of Mausolus and Artemisia riding side by side into eternity. This image of eternal unity crowned a structure that was as much a temple as a tomb, a sanctuary of memory and devotion. The design masterfully combined Greek, Egyptian, and Lycian influences, symbolizing the fusion of cultures under Mausolus's enlightened rule. The lower levels housed the burial chamber, where the sarcophagi were placed within richly carved marble walls. Above it, relief sculptures depicted battles of Greeks and Amazons, the triumph of order over chaos, echoing the eternal struggle between life and death, love and loss. Every figure was rendered with emotion, and motion, the marble seemed alive, telling stories that transcended mortality. Though Artemisia herself died only 2 years after her husband, the mausoleum was completed by her artisans, fulfilling her vision of immortal remembrance. For centuries, the gleaming white monument dominated the skyline of Halicarnassus, inspiring wonder among travelers, poets, and historians. It became so iconic that the very word mausoleum, meaning a monumental tomb, was born from the name Mausolus himself. Tragically, the structure did not survive the passage of time. It was partially destroyed by a series of earthquakes between the 12th and 15th centuries, and its remaining stones were later repurposed by the Knights of St. John to fortify their castle in Bodrum. Yet, even in ruin, its influence endures. Fragments of the mausoleum's friezes and sculptures now preserved in the British Museum still speak of the artistry and emotion that once gave form to love's eternity. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus remains not just a wonder of ancient architecture, but a timeless monument to devotion, a proof that love can outlast empires, and that grief, when transformed into creation, can achieve immortality. Through stone and story, Mausolus and Artemisia still stand side by side, united forever in the memory of the world. The architecture of eternity of the mausoleum at Halicarnassus in history. Queen Artemisia II is remembered as the woman who transformed her grief into one of humanity's greatest works of art. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus was not only a resting place for King Mausolus and Artemisia herself, it was a masterpiece of architecture and symbolism, a monument that embodied both eternal love and the creative power of civilization. Rising to a height of around 45 meters, the mausoleum was among the tallest structures of the ancient world, a gleaming beacon of white marble that combined elements of Greek, Parian, and Persian architecture. This fusion reflected the multicultural richness of Korea, a kingdom poised between East and West, and its desire to unite the beauty, intellect, and strength of different traditions. Its design began with a massive rectangular platform, symbolizing strength and stability, a solid foundation for eternity. Above it rose 36 ionic columns, ranged in harmonious symmetry. Between these elegant pillars were relief panels depicting scenes from mythology and heroic battles, vivid images that celebrated divine power, royal legacy, and the idea that rulers, like gods, could transcend mortality. Atop the colonnade stood the step pyramid roof, composed of 24 ascending tiers, narrowing toward the summit. There, on the pinnacle of stone, stood a magnificent marble chariot, driven by Mausolus himself, an eternal symbol of his triumph and immortality. The sculpture captured the king and queen as though they were setting forth on a celestial journey. Their chariot pulled toward the heavens. The mausoleum's sculptural decoration was entrusted to four of the greatest sculptors of the Greek world: Bryaxis, Scopas, Leochares, and Timotheus. Each artist worked on a different side of the structure, ensuring that every face of the monument bore a distinct artistic style while contributing to a unified vision. Their reliefs portrayed Amazonian battles, naval scenes, and divine assemblies, expressing both the grandeur of Mausolus's reign and the heroic ideals of his time. The realism of their carvings, from the folds of garments to the intensity in warriors' faces, made the marble seem alive, filled with motion, spirit, and grace. At the summit, life-sized statues of Mausolus and Artemisia stood beside the chariot, immortalized as divine rulers gazing over the city they built. These figures, carved with extraordinary precision, reflected not only royal dignity but also the tenderness of two souls bound by love and destiny. Every element, from the structure's proportions to the minute details of ornamentation, was designed to evoke both awe and reverence, reminding visitors that human artistry could rival even the works of the gods. Though centuries have passed, the fragments of this monument still reveal its lost splendor. Archaeological excavations in the 19th century uncovered portions of the reliefs, column drums, and decorative sculptures, now preserved in the British Museum. Among these artifacts are panels depicting the fierce battle of the Amazons, maritime friezes, and mythological beings, each bearing witness to the mastery of ancient artisans and the cultural synthesis of Korea's golden age. The surviving architectural details, such as Ionic capitals and carved marble blocks, demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of geometry and visual rhythm. Subtle traces of paint and gilding found on these fragments suggest that the mausoleum once shimmered with colored sculptures illuminated by the Aegean sun, glowing in white, gold, and ochre. Descriptions by Vitruvius, Pliny the Elder, and later travelers help modern historians reconstruct the mausoleum's grandeur. Together with the archaeological evidence, they reveal a vision of a structure that was not merely a tomb, but a temple of memory and beauty, an eternal dialogue between grief and glory, mortality and immortality. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus became a symbol of cultural unity and artistic genius, influencing centuries of monumental architecture across the Mediterranean and beyond. Its name, mausoleum, entered every language as a synonym for eternal remembrance. And though its stones now lie scattered, the spirit of Artemisia and Mausolus endures, a testament to how love can become art, and art can defy death itself. The Colossus of Rhodes, the sun god's triumph of light and unity from the white marble tombs of Halicarnassus. Our journey carries us across the glittering waters of the Aegean Sea to the island of Rhodes, a land bathed in sunlight, where one of the most magnificent wonders of the ancient world once stood, the Colossus of Rhodes. This towering statue, dedicated to Helios, the god of the sun, became a symbol of strength, unity, and divine protection, a monument not only to craftsmanship but to the indomitable spirit of a people who refused to be conquered. In the early 3rd century BC, Rhodes was a powerful maritime city-state, commanding key trade routes of the eastern Mediterranean. After a long and brutal siege by Demetrius Poliorcetes, king of Cyprus, the Rhodians achieved an astonishing victory. When the invaders withdrew, they left behind vast siege engines and weapons, silent trophies of the city's resilience. Determined to immortalize their triumph and thank their divine protector Helios, the people of Rhodes sold the spoils of war and used the proceeds to build something the world had never seen before, a colossal statue of the sun god. Radiant and unyielding, watching over the island, the statue was the creation of the sculptor Chares of Lindos, a student of the great Lysippus. The work took 12 years to complete, standing at an incredible 33 meters 108 feet high and about the height of a modern 10-story building, making it one of the tallest statues of the ancient world. The Colossus depicted Helios in a proud, commanding stance, his face turned toward the sea, crowned with a radiant halo of sunbeams, a symbol of divine light and protection. In one hand he held a torch, guiding sailors safely to the harbor. In the other, perhaps a spear or staff, representing power and authority. For centuries, a popular legend claimed that the Colossus straddled the entrance to the harbor, with ships passing between its legs, a breathtaking image that became part of its mythic legacy. However, historical evidence suggests that the statue likely stood on solid ground near the port, elevated on a marble platform so that its golden form could be seen from afar by ships approaching Rhodes, a shining guardian welcoming travelers to a city of light and liberty. The Colossus was more than a sculpture, it was a manifestation of civic pride and divine gratitude. Every stone, every bronze plate, every beam of sunlight reflected from its surface embodied the unity of the Rhodian people. The construction was a collective effort. Craftsmen, laborers, merchants, and citizens all contributed, transforming the act of building into an expression of shared triumph. For the Rhodians, Helios was not only the sun that illuminated the earth, but also the symbol of justice, endurance, and renewal, qualities they saw reflected in themselves. For over 50 years, the Colossus stood as a beacon of hope and human achievement. But in 26 BC, a devastating earthquake struck Rhodes, The mighty statue, unable to withstand the tremors, broke at the knees and collapsed, its bronze fragments scattered across the island. Ancient accounts describe the colossal remains lying where they fell. The fingers alone were said to be larger than a man could grasp with both arms, even in ruins. The monument continued to inspire awe. The Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder wrote that travelers came from distant lands just to gaze upon the fallen god of bronze. When the Rhodians consulted the oracle of Delphi about rebuilding it, they were told not to, for Helios himself, the oracle claimed, had willed its fall. Respecting the divine command, the people left the fragments untouched, where they remained for over 800 years. In the 7th century CE, when Arab forces captured Rhodes, the remnants of the Colossus were reportedly dismantled and sold for scrap metal. According to later chronicles, the bronze was loaded onto 900 camels, an image that, whether literal or symbolic, marks the final chapter of this extraordinary monument. Yet, the spirit of the Colossus never vanished. Its memory lived on as a symbol of freedom, resilience, and illumination, ideals that continued to echo through history. Centuries later, it would inspire another monumental creation, the Statue of Liberty in New York. Itself a modern colossus, welcoming travelers with a torch held high, the eternal flame of hope, the Colossus of Rhodes stands, even in absence, as a timeless emblem of human courage and divine aspiration, are proof that when people act together, guided by faith and light, they can forge monuments that outlast empires and touch eternity itself. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, a beacon of knowledge, power, and hope. After the shining glory of the Colossus of Rhodes, the journey continues south to Egypt, where upon the small island of Pharos, near the great city of Alexandria, once stood another wonder of the ancient world, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. And like other wonders built to honor gods or kings, this one united art, science, and necessity. It was a marvel not only of beauty and craftsmanship, but of engineering genius, guiding sailors through treacherous waters and standing as a radiant symbol of human progress. The lighthouse was constructed around the 3rd century BC, during the reign of Ptolemy II Philadelphus, at a time when Alexandria had become one of the largest and most influential cities of the Mediterranean world. Founded by Alexander the Great, the city soon evolved into a center of trade, culture, and scholarship. Its bustling harbor, protected by the island of Pharos, received ships from every known land, but hidden reefs and shallow waters made navigation perilous. The construction of a massive lighthouse was not merely an architectural ambition. It was an imperative of survival and prestige. The rulers of the Ptolemaic dynasty saw in this project a way to strengthen Alexandria's image as the capital of enlightenment and innovation. The Pharos Lighthouse, as it came to be known, rose as a symbol of safety and civilization. A message to all who approached: you have reached the heart of the world. Standing at an estimated 110 to 130 meters, 360 to 430 feet, the Lighthouse of Alexandria was among the tallest structures of antiquity, second only to the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its light, reflected by an enormous polished bronze mirror, could reportedly be seen more than 50 kilometers 30 miles away, a true beacon for sailors of the ancient seas. By day, the mirror caught and redirected the sunlight. By night, a great fire blazed atop the tower, maintained by dedicated keepers who ensured its flame never dimmed. Architecturally, the lighthouse was an engineering masterpiece. It was built of large blocks of pale limestone, bound with molten lead clamps that allowed the structure to flex under seismic pressure, providing remarkable stability against the frequent earthquakes of the region. The tower consisted of 3 tiers, each distinct in form and purpose. The lower level was a broad square base, solid and massive, anchoring the structure and housing storage areas, ramps, and living quarters for workers. The middle section was octagonal, a design that reduced wind resistance and distributed weight evenly across the base. The uppermost tier was cylindrical, crowned by a circular platform where the great flame burned, its brilliance magnified by the massive bronze mirror dot at the very top, legend says. Stood a statue of Zeus or Poseidon, gazing eternally across the sea, the divine guardian over Alexandria's waters. The lighthouse was not only an aid to navigation, but also a political statement. Its light proclaimed the wealth, intelligence, and divine favor of the Ptolemies. It reflected the spirit of Hellenistic Egypt, where Greek artistry, Egyptian symbolism, and scientific innovation merged into a single form of monumental expression. It was a physical and metaphysical beacon, guiding ships to port and minds toward discovery. For centuries, the lighthouse stood as the pride of the Mediterranean. However, time and nature proved relentless. A series of powerful earthquakes in 956, 1303, and 1323 CE eventually reduced the once mighty pharaohs to rubble. Its remains were later used in the construction of the citadel of Khufu, which still stands on the same site today, a fortress built on the bones of a wonder, though the structure itself is gone. The legacy of the Lighthouse of Alexandria lives on. It inspired the design of countless lighthouses across Europe, Asia, and North Africa, setting the standard for maritime architecture for over 1,000 years. Its multi-tiered design influenced later towers, from the Tower of Hercules in Spain to the medieval watchtowers of the Islamic world. Even its technological innovations echo through time. The concept of amplifying light with reflective surfaces laid the groundwork for optical engineering, leading eventually to the Fresnel lenses used in modern lighthouses. And beyond its technical significance, the lighthouse's symbolism endures: the light in the darkness, a universal emblem of hope, guidance, and human perseverance. Today, when we see a lighthouse shining across the horizon, or the Statue of Liberty holding her torch above the waves, we are witnessing the living spirit of the pharaohs of Alexandria. The eternal flame that once guided sailors home and continues to guide humanity toward knowledge, courage, and light. The decline of the seven wonders. When greatness meets time, let us now turn to the fate of the seven wonders of the ancient world. Those breathtaking creations that once stood as symbols of human ambition, artistry, and devotion. Why did almost all of them disappear, leaving behind only fragments and memories? The answer is both simple and profound. Time spares nothing, not even the grandest works of humankind. These wonders were built thousands of years ago, long before modern engineering, before steel, concrete, or the technologies that now protect great monuments from decay. The architects and builders of antiquity reached astonishing levels of mastery, using only stone, wood, marble, and bronze. Yet even the strongest materials are powerless before the relentless forces of nature and the unpredictability of human hands. Natural disasters played a decisive role in the downfall of the wonders. The Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, which had stood proudly for centuries, was shattered by powerful earthquakes that reduced it to ruins. The same fate befell the Colossus of Rhodes, whose towering bronze figure crumbled under the tremors that shook the island. The temple of Artemis at Ephesus was destroyed first by fire, later by war, and finally by neglect. Even the Lighthouse of Alexandria, which had guided sailors for centuries, could not withstand the repeated earthquakes that ravaged Egypt's coast. Its stones were eventually reused to build a fortress that still stands on the same site today. But nature was not the only destroyer. Human ambition, greed, and carelessness contributed just as much. Wars turned temples into battlegrounds, monuments into quarries, and sacred statues into scrap metal. Many wonders were dismantled stone by stone to be used in new constructions. Others were simply forgotten, their stories buried under the sands of time, perhaps the most symbolic loss of all, though not officially among the seven wonders, was the Library of Alexandria, the heart of ancient knowledge, consumed by fire and lost forever. Its destruction mirrors the tragedy of the lost wonders, a reminder that brilliance, no matter how radiant, can vanish in a moment if not preserved with care. Only the Great Pyramid of Giza endures, the last of the seven still standing, defying millennia of storms, wars, and shifting sands. Its survival owes much to its sheer mass and the precision of its construction, a testament to the extraordinary vision of its builders. The others, more delicate and ornate, were vulnerable. They were built not for eternity, but for glory, to dazzle the eyes of their contemporaries and to proclaim the power of gods and kings. Yet in another sense, none of the wonders have truly vanished. They live on in art, in memory, in the dreams of every architect and artist who seeks to create beauty that transcends time. Their ruins whisper of lost civilizations, but also of the unbroken human desire to build, to imagine, to reach for the impossible. Today, modern projects, from colossal statues to dazzling skyscrapers, carry the same spirit that once raised the wonders of the ancient world. Each stone place, each beam lifted, is an echo of that ancient vow, that humanity, though mortal, will always strive for the eternal. The decline of the seven wonders reminds us of a timeless truth. Even the greatest achievements fade, but the memory of greatness endures forever. It is not the stones that make a wonder immortal, it is the awe they awaken, the legacy they leave, and the inspiration they pass to every generation that dares to dream beyond the horizon. Recreating the lost wonders, reviving the memory of human greatness as the echoes of the ancient world fade. Humanity continues to reach back through time, striving to breathe life once more into the legends of the seven wonders. Though most of these monuments have long vanished, their memory inspires modern science, art, and architecture to recreate what was lost, not always in stone and marble, but in imagination, technology, and spirit. In Turkey, at the site of the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus, archaeologists and architects have undertaken ambitious reconstruction projects. Today, only a few solitary columns and fragments remain, standing like ghosts of past grandeur. Yet the efforts to study, restore, and digitally reconstruct the temple are not merely technical, they are deeply cultural and symbolic. Using 3D modeling, laser scanning, and virtual reality, researchers have recreated the temple's majestic form, allowing modern viewers to walk once again among its marble colonnades and glimpse the beauty that once astonished the ancient world. Other wonders to have inspired dreams of revival. Several times in history, architects and engineers have proposed rebuilding the Colossus of Rhodes not as an exact copy, but as a modern monument to unity and resilience. These contemporary designs envision a statue far larger and stronger than the original, built with seismic-resistant technology, glowing with internal illumination, and serving as both a landmark and a symbol of peace for the 21st century. The Lighthouse of Alexandria continues to ignite the imagination of engineers and historians alike. Plans have been discussed to recreate the pharaohs on its original site, this time using modern materials, renewable energy, and optical technology to restore its role as a guiding light for sailors. Some envision it as a museum of maritime history. Others see it as a beacon of science and culture, linking Egypt's ancient brilliance with its modern aspiration. Across the world, artists, architects, and historians use digital reconstruction, augmented reality, and cinematic visualization to resurrect all seven wonders in breathtaking detail. These virtual recreations allow us to explore how the Great Pyramid once shone beneath the desert sun, how the Hanging Gardens might have glistened with dew at dawn, or how the statue of Zeus illuminated the temple at Olympia. In many ways, these efforts are not about rebuilding stone monuments, but about reviving memory itself, keeping alive the spark of imagination that drove the ancients to reach for perfection. The new wonders we create today, whether they rise from steel, glass, or light, may continue the same legacy, the eternal human desire to build something that outlasts us, something that connects heaven and earth. Even if the original wonders have fallen, their echoes guide us still, inspiring the architects, scientists, and dreamers of our time to weave new miracles from the old, ensuring that the light of human creativity, once kindled in antiquity, never truly fades. The new wonders of the world. When the past inspires the future, humanity may never fully restore the lost seven wonders. Yet it continues to create new marvels and monuments that pay tribute to the spirit of the ancients while pushing the boundaries of what is possible today. Just as the builders of old sought to reach the heavens through stone and imagination, modern architects and visionaries now craft a new generation of wonders that blend technology, beauty, and boldness. In Dubai, the skyline itself has become a symbol of human ambition. The Burj Khalifa, piercing the clouds at over 800 meters high, stands like a modern colossus, echoing the same desire that once drove the ancient world to transcend limits and touch eternity. Its shimmering facade reflects the desert sun like the polished marble of the Great Pyramid, and its very existence is a declaration that the dream of reaching higher, of defying gravity and time, is as alive as ever. Elsewhere, the harmony between nature and architecture recalls the mythical hanging gardens of Babylon. The Supertree Grove in Singapore are towering vertical gardens that generate energy and support living ecosystems, embodies the same yearning for a paradise on Earth, where technology and the natural world coexist in balance. Similarly, Milan's Bosco Vertical, the vertical forest, transforms urban living into a living organism, breathing life and green renewal into the heart of the city. These creations, along with countless others, are on the globe, from the Great Wall restorations in China to the modern wonders of engineering like the Channel Tunnel and the International Space Station, form the new chapter in humanity's architectural saga. Each structure tells a story not only of progress, but of remembrance, that our ancestors once dreamed of eternity, and we are still dreaming it today. The legacy of the seven wonders reminds us that inspiration never dies. The stones may have crumbled, but the idea that humanity can shape the impossible endures. Every new skyscraper, every green garden suspended in the air, every shimmering tower of glass and light is a tribute to that ancient spark. We may not rebuild the past, but in each creation that reaches for the sky or brings the heavens down to earth, we carry forward the same eternal dream, that through imagination, courage, and creativity, humanity continues to leave its mark, one wonder at a time. From the stones of ancient temples to the glass towers of the modern world, one truth endures: the human spirit never stops creating. The seven wonders of the ancient world were more than monuments. They were reflections of a timeless desire to build, to dream, to touch the divine through art and imagination. Though centuries have erased their forms, their essence lives on in every architect who sketches a new skyline, in every engineer who reaches higher, and in every artist who tries to capture beauty that defies time. The wonders we raise today, from towering cities of light to floating gardens in the sky, are not replacements, but continuations of that eternal story. Each new creation, whether carved from stone or born from code, is a whisper from the past and a promise to the future, that humanity's greatest monument is not built from marble, but from its endless capacity to dream. And so, the legacy of the seven wonders remains not as ruins of what was, but as inspiration for what still can be.